Good morning. Welcome to my kitchen. It's under remodel. It's going to be under remodel for quite some time. I'm quite comfortable and relaxed about it. It's not the first time I've worked in a kitchen that didn't have a proper floor. The countertops weren't swell. I'm just grateful all the cabinetry has been painted beautifully. And now I'm getting ready to just have some fun with tomatoes and some eggs and some herbs that I've been growing on the deck this year. Turns out that I kind of have a green thumb. All we need over here in Orondo, Washington, which is just a little bit shy outside of Lake Chelan, which is one of the deepest lakes in, I think, the world, certainly America. And also the other major city would be Wenatchee, Washington. And most of the amenities, larger big box stores and whatnot, are in that vicinity. Although I do love shopping the mom and pop stores, both in the Main Street area, Wooden Avenue in Chelan, and the Ave, as it's known in Wenatchee, that goes into the old downtown area. It's beautiful. There's so many parks here. Unfortunately, not a lot of off-leash parks for dogs. In fact, there's only one, and it's covered in gravel and a little bit dusty this time of year. But still, I'm grateful to have a park like that around in the vicinity. So I have got some of my ingredients assembled, and some of them I did earlier so that it was less painful for you to watch. And my oldest son, who is, oh my Lord, I think he's, how old is he now? 36, great Scott. My oldest son, Joshua, was telling me that I should do it like those TikTok videos where they simply dump everything, show you the finished product, then dump everything, and in the end, pop it into whatever the method is for heating the product or not heating the product, and then the finished product. And I don't want to do that. I want to share a little bit of my life with people and show you this is what this chef is doing in retirement. I didn't think that I would enjoy cooking quite this much on a smaller scale, and I have really begun to experiment and try some new things, and I'm having a great time, especially since this is the first year that I've actually grown something on purpose. And I have gorgeous tomatoes. I'm going to show them to you right now. And while I'm doing that, I'll bring the whipping cream over as well. Okay, so these are the harvest from, oh, there's some oranges in there too. But for instance, I got this basket from the Lone Pine, which is an antique, well, it's a heritage farmhouse, orchard farmhouse, and it's a cafe, an eatery. They carry a great line of beef product in there as well. It's in the freezer section. Anyways, I love my tomatoes. So I'm going to do something with the tomatoes too, even though they're rather wet. So I'm thinking frittata, but it's really just going to be a crustless quiche. I'm not going to stick bread in it. My husband's not doing bread right now, and neither am I. I'm going to try going without bread or rice or corn for a week and see if I have better joint comfort. So I'm using whole eggs. I'm going to fill this. I only have the bread part of milling flour of my Vitamix right now, as I was trying to carry too many things at the time when I was clearing out the kitchen for the initial paint, and I had so many things in my hands. I was over just behind me, and as I was walking along, unfortunately I lost balance of everything, and I held on to the machine base, which is really quite heavy piece of equipment, the Vitamix, and I held onto it, but the top piece came out and it flew across the room, hit the cabinet, hit the floor, and died a painful death down there. It was shattered. The base part of it though wasn't shattered. It really, if the glass hadn't, or I think it was glass, if that hadn't broken, it would have been just fine. I'm going rather slow. I can crack eggs a whole lot faster, but I'm finding my rhythm and sharing with people and moving my hands at the same time without saying a bunch of times. And also trying to keep things interesting for you. So in the past, I worked as a chef in a little place called Gilman Village, and the name of the place that I worked for was called the Sweet Edition, and it was a great little cafeteria, and at times they'd done some dinner menus, and other times they found that wasn't being very successful, so they went strictly with breakfast and lunch, short order cooking, and then pick up salads, have sandwiches made to order right in front of them. There'd be a sandwich special of the day. There was so much freedom in that kitchen, so many recipes to pull from, 2 to 3 bakers working, and then when catering would kick in, it was just all hands on deck in this tiny little hall with a subfloor and a very, double yoke, a very old walk-in refrigerator, and hijinks and tricks and crabby females and hysterical females, great people in the dish pit, and an owner of the venue. People were afraid of her. That woman, Linda, she could cuss worse than pirate. My friends at the other business were actually frightened of this woman. I found her delightful. And the thing about Linda Kowalski is she's not dead. The thing about Linda is that she's so knowledgeable that she'll tell you exactly how to do a procedure one day, a method, and then change it up the next day. And people would argue with her and tell her, that's not what you told me to do yesterday. And the correct response is, yes, chef. Once you figure that out, you do very well with Miss Kowalski. Oh dear. There we go. Let me try this. Yes, it is working. I have a little new power on the other side of the breakfast marker. Yes! Okay, so I put my eggs in because my arms and such are tired from, and it's just easier. They're just tired from having worked so much earlier in life on the food truck and creating foods and hauling and lifting, and this is how I measure. So I have about a quart, I think maybe a quart of eggs in there, so I'm going to do heavy whipping cream. I found from a baker who made one of the most delicious quiches I've ever had the pleasure to enjoy in my life. Again, another restaurant in Gilman Village, and that lady, her uncle or grandfather was a park in downtown, more towards downtown Seattle area of Washington State, was named for him, and it's one of my favorite parks. We'll remember it in a minute. I want to say Seward, but it might be Magnuson, but I think it might be Seward. So anyways, she used only heavy whip, and it gave her these high, gorgeous quiches, and so light and creamy and delicious. So I'm just dumping in the whipping cream here, and I'll make a custard. Any overages that I have, I will simply pour into muffin tins or another smaller dish. Before you saw me, I sprayed this with nonstick. And I also went out to my garden and selected thyme and rosemary. These I had to purchase, and I'm sorry to say I didn't get them at the farmer's market. That wasn't until Thursday. So these are leeks that I've just sweated and sauteed, and I did that in olive oil. And then what I'm doing right now is gathering up all of the fond from the cooking of the bacon in the oven at 325 degrees convection, 350 regular bake for, well, depending on your oven, about 10 minutes, and then turn the pan. I just learned on my new oven where I have a hot spot and the best bake is in the back left-hand corner. So I'm getting all this fond off with these leeks, so I have all the yummy flavor there. And then I'll throw that in. What I've learned to do was we layer all of the goodies in the pan first and then dump the custard over the top the next day. So I would prep a frittata the night before, and the first thing I put down is a layer of ooey gooey sticky yummy cheese, and I have a Hispanic 3 cheese blend here on a small shred, and I'm just gonna layer it in. And I have some other cheeses there too that we'll get to those. And then a little teeny bit of herb, and because they're fresh, they're super pungent. The oils have all been released. Oh, it's gorgeous, my goodness. Okay, and then I'm gonna put in a little bit of the sauteed leek. Oh, delightful. Now, if that was hamburger, I'd not be smiling. And then I'm gonna chop down a bit on this bacon, which it's kind of crispy and kind of soft, but it won't make a terrible greasy mess. And I get a row of that. Ooh, my hand's too greasy. I can't hold on to my knife properly. There we go. I like to be way up high on the knife. I move my whipping cream, stick this over, and utilize my counter space just a little bit better. So as you can see, I have this really great ring on my index finger, and it is either a cross or a coffee bean. I prefer to have it as a cross. So I just bust down this bacon real quick and stick some in here. Nice bacony goodness, yes. And then I will do another layer of the not so expensive cheese. And again, it's a cow's milk blend. I'll save one more layer for the top, I think. And then another layer of leaky yumminess. There we go. So pretty. Can you see what I'm doing there? I'm sorry, I had it out of camera shot. There we go. Oh, Yogi's on his way into the kitchen. That is my older Bernie Doodle mini. I think he's older. He's just bigger, actually. And his brother Boo Boo is in the other room. Both of them are relaxed because I had the presence of mind to take them for a short little stroll just up and down the street so that they'd be relaxed and not all barky bark while I was making this frittata quiche thing. And this was some goat cheese, some chef that I had out for charcuterie the other day, and I had bacon bits on it, and it's kind of ugly, and I could pretty it up and use it later, but it's just so delicious and tangy to put in this type of preparation that why not? Frees up more space in my cheese drawer for new cheeses. I have a little problem with the cheeses. All right, and then more, that's getting excessive. All right, I think I'm gonna go with that, and then I'll start adding, oh, I still have some of these. More leeks. I'm start adding the herbage and seasonings to the custard, which is so simple. And my mother's been making omelets this way for years, and so delicious. They come out in these big, foamy, fluffy goodness, and it's the only way that I like eggs now. Alrighty. Ooh, I am very mushy now, and I'm gonna have to do this again, beg your pardon. Okay, so, anyway, so I worked for Lynn for years, and I loved it. I spent all of my time planning menus and experimenting with sandwiches, and then I had an opportunity over here to come to work in Eastern Washington where I have a cabin. I'm just shoving the eggshells, ooh, water got hot, shoving the eggshells down into the sink disposal unit. And hands are dry. Oh, so excited. Shoot, I guess one of the things I'm going to have to get better at right away is not losing track of where I was when I was speaking. All right. So I worked for Linda there. I had planned to go and get my civilian small plane license, and it was fairly costly, and I wasn't learning it as comfortably as I'd like to learn it, as thoroughly, where I really felt like I had it inside and out of me. And it is flying, and the first rule is to be safe. So here's the first ingredient. I like to add a little heat, and I like layers of it. This is the very end of sweet chili flakes. I got a little dust up there. Here's a little bit of the grated Parmesan. And I just buy the store's generic brand. I'm quite happy with it. And it also kind of leads the salt level too. And here's a little teeny snippet of cayenne. And that's just because some people want to see that go in. And here's the rest of some dry thyme going in. I'd say a 1/4 teaspoon. Then you want about a teaspoon of prepared mustard, Dijon, or in this case I'm going to use about half a tablespoon maybe? Yeah, of dry mustard, depending on what you have available. I'm trying to make it every man's dish. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you about. Joshua was saying that I should make it so it's just like food for one person. I haven't quite been able to downsize to that extent yet. So I'm getting to know my neighbors over here, because this is going to feed far more than the two of us. And plus it makes for, would you please water my plants while I'm gone? It's come across really nicely, because they're enjoying some of the fruits, so to speak, of my labors. Fresh ground pepper into the custard. And I like a goodly amount. And since it's fresh, it seasons it so well. And the other item that I wanted was, I'm going over to my spice racks located on top of the induction portion of the range on my Fisher Piquel, and locate my white pepper. Oh, that's garlic. Oh, I like garlic powder in it too. So let's see. That's a new white pepper. There's the last of that one. And I also would like just a little tiny bit of nutmeg in there. And that's kind of classic. Yes, I'm measuring the garlic. I find that if you just simply cover the surface of something with the garlic granules, that you're going to have a pretty good coverage. And you can always add more later. And white pepper, sometimes it'll clump, so I just put a little stripe of it down the strip of my palm, and then I'll dust it off in there. You don't need very much of it. It's very pungent and has a delightful light smell to it. It's hard to describe. You just have to go and sniff it. So I did the cayenne, I did the mustard. Now I want to do the little teeny hit of nutmeg. Just a teeny dusting. And now I'm ready to rock and roll with a whisk. Right behind me over here. One of the absolute joys of working in this kitchen is everything is only one step away. And it's just a pivot on my back foot. Full pivot, right? I love that. Okay, so the one thing that I don't like about using dry mustard is making sure that I get it all incorporated into fluids. And this one's going in really nicely. The other thing about the mustard is it does add a little yellow, just barely though, just barely in yellow. Okay, proper whisking techniques. Grab it in your fist like this. Whisk away from you this way, and relax your hand, and you're only really just using smallest motion instead of this deal or this deal. Towards you or away from you, and you will get a great whisk, and you will not waste your arm doing it. All right, now I'm going to pour in my zipped up eggs. I'm going to zip them one more quick time. Get my hair out of there. Now you're going to see where I got bacon grease on my shoulder because I didn't get the apron on. And since I already wasted the shirt, I thought, well, that's what it is. So that, pardon us, and in we go, and I will whisk as I do it. I usually like to do that in the sink just in case it happens, right? Okay, and again, with the whisk, And I've made frittata so many times when it reaches the proper color. Yeah, I want it all. There we go. And, ooh, so pretty. Okay, it's kind of foamy and delightful looking. And I add salt. Put that on at the very, very end. Pardon me while I mumble to myself. Now I don't have to talk to myself. I've got a camera to talk to. Well, let's see. I'm 61 years old. I'm a Christian. I was a Christian since I was a little girl. And I have been up and down on the Christian barometer. But mostly what I've found, actually what I've found completely, is that a relationship with God is the most important. It's so important, and it's life-changing. It's absolutely, utterly life-changing. And more than anything, I want to get across that point to you all. My initials spell the word laser, and so I came up with a symbol for it, and it's an arrow with laser written out on the top of where the fletching would go and written on the bottom of where the fletching would go. And one of the reasons why I chose the arrow is because it was my first job, and I worked a night shift in Kirkland gluing the feathers onto the shafts of arrows. I did that for about a week and then I didn't do it anymore. Okay, so now I'm dumping the custard in. I can't attest to the quality of the attached fletching on said arrows, but we can hope that it was clean shots for everyone. All right, in we go. And that puppy's gonna go over. A lot of times your peppers land on the bottom, so I try to get them all around. The other thing that I learned from the chef, and truly, best school, I did a year of culinary, but I gotta tell you, the best school was the School of Life and Linda. I learned so much from that gal, and I still appreciate everything that she taught me. And mostly just taught me by telling me what to do, and I executed it to the best of my ability. She'd give me direction or correction and taught my palate. Just brilliant. That was like getting paid to go to cooking school. Not a bad way to go. And I've met other chefs who learned the same way. Some of them did go to college. One chef I know went to college to be a psychiatrist and ended up on a fishing boat in Alaska chefing there. And then he came back down and just turned into this rockin' awesome chef and a great guy. I have tales, but I can't share the tales with his name until I've spoken to him about doing it publicly. And I think the rascal that this chef is, I think he'd just brag about it. So, all right, I'm just gonna top it off with some more crumbled bacon, or chopped bacon. And it's taken to just the crispy stage where it gets kind of granulated in the fat bits. I love that. And, oh, it's so pretty. And then I think I love this big Parmesan cheese, but before I stick my hand in there, I'm gonna wash them because I wiped out the eggs. And I don't wanna take the risk of any salmonella going anywhere. And unlike other cooking shows, I am actually using soap. That makes me crazy. Okay, another fact that makes me crazy. The State of Washington Department of Health says that I have to have my water, when I was cooking professionally, at a certain temperature within a certain number of seconds. If I didn't do that, my kitchen could be docked or shut down. My commissary. I go to any state-run facility. Do they have hot water in those bathrooms? No, they do not. But they're not serving food in there either. Nonetheless, everybody that uses the facility is a walking germ pole. It's disgusting. But at least you know, in most restaurants in Washington State, you're going to be safe eating there. I actually felt very differently about the Department of Health than some people do. I felt that it was an opportunity for on-site education and a chance to be proactive and learn something to stay ahead of the curve, so to speak, as to what was coming down the line for the food trucking industry in Washington State, because I was I don't know if I could say I was rather early in it, but I was fairly early in it to where I had earned the nickname of a grandfather truck. And now that I'm a grandmother, it doesn't bother me as much. All right, so we have this beautifully prepared pan of eggy goodness. And now I'm gonna whip the aluminum foil off of here. Shove it into the sink. Place my little quiche on it. And so I don't have to travel too much. I think it's actually going to be better to place it in the pan first. And open the oven door. Very muy rapido. With my back to you, I apologize. And pop this in here, and when it's done, it's done. My guess is 45 minutes to an hour, and I have it at about 328, 329 in there. And then at the very end, I'm gonna hit it with the very end of the fresh herb and the little bit of bacon. And that'll go onto the bacon draining towel. So all flavors are hot. Thank you for joining me. If I left anything out, write it in a comment and I'll finish the story. And I will respond to comments too. So I started out working at a place called the Sweet Edition. I went from the Sweet Edition to another place in Waterville, Washington called the Harvest House, where I worked under a chef who'd studied under her grandmother, or her great-grandmother. Phenomenal French Creole. Oh my Lord. Delicious Cajun food. And she also taught me smoking the meats. And so I learned that. We created sliders, and I also created another one that I'm sharing the recipe with the chef up the hill at the Desert Canyon Golf Course and Resort. The name of the restaurant is CJ's Oasis, and I think it's Chef Alicio, and I promised to bring him Thai lamb sliders. So the lamb is thawing properly in the refrigerator on the bottom shelf, and I will mix that up and show you Thai lamb sliders tomorrow. It was an award-winning slider on my food truck. Well, I really appreciate all of you coming in and watching me make messes in the kitchen, maybe just hearing a little bit about me. And, well, it's really just a practice run. And practice makes perfect, so we'll see where it goes. So again, Lynn Ann's Wadlow Wren, Laser Wren, and have fun cooking and showing you what comes out of the garden. The other thing that's coming up is in a couple of weeks, I'm physically moving myself, 2 dogs, and a cat to another state, and I'll be hauling since I am the professional driver in the family. Adios! Thank you for joining me again, and I'll see you as soon as the quiche, not quiche, frittata comes out of my beautiful Fisher Pickel oven in induction range. Hopefully my hand's not too greasy and it turns on. Adios!